The fluorescent lights of St. Mary's emergency room buzzed overhead as Evelyn Carter burst through the automatic doors, her 4-year-old daughter Luna limp in her arms. The child's skin burned with fever, her small body trembling with each labored breath. Evelyn's heart hammered against her ribs as she approached the reception desk, her voice cracking with desperation. "Please, my daughter. She has a high fever, and she won't stop vomiting. She needs help right now," Evelyn pleaded, her dark hair disheveled, still wearing her hotel uniform from her shift that had ended only an hour ago. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, immediately picked up the phone. "We'll get her seen right away. What's her name?" Luna Carter. She's 4 years old." Within minutes, a nurse appeared and guided them to a small examination room. Evelyn laid Luna on the bed, smoothing her daughter's damp curls away from her flushed face. The child's eyes fluttered open briefly, unfocused and glassy. "Mommy," she whispered weakly. "I'm right here, baby. The doctor is coming. Everything will be okay," Evelyn said, though fear clawed at her throat. She had seen Luna sick before, but never like this. Never this burning hot, never this weak. The door opened and Evelyn turned, ready to explain Luna's symptoms to whoever walked through. But the words died in her throat. Time seemed to stop. The air left her lungs in a rush, as if someone had punched her in the stomach. Standing in the doorway, white coat crisp and professional, stethoscope around his neck, was Alexander Hayes, the man she had loved with every fiber of her being, the man whose child slept restlessly on the examination table between them, the man she had mourned for 5 years, believing he was dead. Alexander's blue eyes met hers, and something flickered across his face. Confusion. Recognition that wasn't quite recognition. A pull he couldn't explain. His brow furrowed slightly as he looked at her, as if trying to remember something just beyond his reach. "I'm Dr. Hayes," he said, his voice the same rich timbre that had once whispered promises of forever in her ear. "I'll be examining your daughter tonight." Evelyn couldn't speak. Her hand gripped the edge of Luna's bed to keep herself upright. He was alive. Alexander was alive. And he was looking at her like she was a complete stranger. "Ma'am?" His voice held concern now, professional and distant. "Are you all right? Do you need to sit down?" She forced herself to breathe, to push words past the knot in her throat. "I'm fine. It's just, Luna, please help Luna." Alexander moved to the bedside, his movements efficient and practiced. As he leaned over Luna to check her vitals, Evelyn caught the scent of his cologne, different from what he used to wear but still somehow achingly familiar. She watched his hands, those same hands that had once held hers, now gently examining their daughter, hands that had cradled her face when he kissed her, hands that had rested on her barely there baby bump the last night they were together. "Can you tell me her symptoms?" he asked, pulling out a thermometer. Evelyn's voice shook as she recounted the evening, how Luna had been fine when she picked her up from her friend Jessica's apartment after work, how an hour later Luna had started vomiting, how the fever had spiked so quickly, climbing higher and higher until Luna was burning up and barely responsive. Alexander listened intently, his expression focused and professional. But Evelyn noticed the way his eyes kept drifting back to her face, between checking Luna's temperature, listening to her breathing, examining her throat, as if something about her wouldn't let him look away. 103.8 degrees, he murmured, noting Luna's temperature. "That's quite high. I'm going to run some tests, but my initial assessment suggests it might be a severe throat infection. We'll need to get her fever down and start her on fluids and antibiotics." He turned to call for a nurse, and Evelyn found herself staring at the back of his head, at the way his dark hair curled slightly at his collar, at the set of his shoulders. 5 years. 5 years she had believed him dead. 5 years of grief and struggling and raising their daughter alone. And here he stood, alive and well, with no memory of her at all. The nurse came in, and Alexander gave quiet instructions for medication and an IV. As the nurse prepared Luna, Alexander turned back to Evelyn. "I need to ask you some questions about Luna's medical history. Does she have any allergies to medications? Any chronic conditions? Has she had all her vaccinations?" "No allergies. No chronic conditions. Yes, all her vaccinations are up to date," Evelyn answered mechanically, watching as the nurse inserted the IV into Luna's small arm. Her daughter whimpered, and Evelyn moved to comfort her, stroking her hair. "And what about her father?" Alexander asked, his pen poised over the clipboard. "Is he available? We like to have both parents' information if possible." The question struck Evelyn like a physical blow. She looked up at him, searching his face for any sign of recognition, any glimmer of memory. But there was nothing except polite professional inquiry and that strange, inexplicable pull in his eyes when he looked at her. "Her father isn't in the picture," she managed to say. Something crossed Alexander's face then. Sadness, sympathy? It was gone before she could identify it. "I understand. That must be difficult, raising a child on your own. If only he knew. If only he remembered." Evelyn wanted to scream, to shake him, to demand he remember her, remember them, remember the love they had shared. But she simply nodded, turning her attention back to Luna. As Alexander continued his examination, asking more questions, checking Luna's reflexes and responses, Evelyn's mind spiraled backward through time. She had been 20 years old, in her second year of nursing school, working part-time at the University Medical Center to help pay her tuition. Her family had scraped together what they could, but money was always tight. Evelyn had grown up in a small rural town 3 hours outside the city, the daughter of a factory worker and a seamstress. Getting into nursing school had been her dream, her way out, her chance at a better life. Alexander Hayes had been everything she wasn't. Wealthy, privileged, the son of Margaret and Robert Hayes, one of the most prominent families in the state. His father owned a chain of private hospitals. His mother sat on the boards of half the charitable organizations in the city. Alexander was in his final year of medical school, brilliant and driven, destined for greatness. They had met in the hospital cafeteria. Evelyn had been on her lunch break, exhausted from a double shift, when she'd reached for the last sandwich at the same moment he had. Their hands had touched, and when their eyes met, something had shifted in the universe. At least that's what it had felt like to Evelyn. "Sorry," she had said, pulling her hand back. "You take it." But Alexander had smiled, a smile that made her heart skip, and said, "How about we split it? I'm Alexander, by the way. Medical student, and apparently very bad at timing my lunch breaks." They had shared the sandwich, and then they had shared coffee, and then they had shared their dreams, their fears, their hopes. Before Evelyn knew what was happening, she was falling in love. Alexander had pursued her with a determination that left her breathless. Flowers appeared at her workstation. Coffee arrived during her study sessions. Notes were slipped into her textbooks. He made her feel like the most important person in the world. "My family is going to hate you," he had told her one night, 3 months into their relationship, as they lay on a blanket in the park, staring up at the stars. "You're not from the right background. You don't move in the right circles. You're everything they don't want for me." Evelyn's heart had sunk. Maybe we should stop seeing each other then. But Alexander had turned to her, his blue eyes fierce with emotion. "I wasn't finished. I don't care what they think. I love you, Evelyn Carter. I love your strength, your kindness, your determination. I love how you light up when you talk about becoming a nurse, about helping people. I love that you know what it's like to struggle, to work for everything you have. You're real in a way no one in my world has ever been. I choose you. I will always choose you." And he had meant it. For a year, Alexander had shielded her from his family's disapproval. They met his friends, who were surprisingly accepting once they got to know Evelyn. They studied together, dreamed together, built a future together in whispered conversations late at night. Then, Evelyn had discovered she was pregnant. She remembered the moment clearly. Sitting on the bathroom floor of her tiny apartment, staring at the positive test, terror and wonder warring inside her. She was 21 years old, still in school, barely making ends meet. But when she had told Alexander, he had swept her into his arms and spun her around, laughing with joy. "We're having a baby," he had said, his hands cradling her face, his eyes shining. "Evelyn, we're going to be parents. This is amazing. But I'm still in school. We're not married. Your family—" "We'll deal with it," Alexander had said firmly. "I love you. I want to marry you. I want to build a life with you. This baby just moves up our timeline a little. We can do this, Evelyn. Together we can do anything." That confidence, that certainty had calmed her fears. They had made plans. Alexander would graduate in 3 months. He would start his residency. They would get married quietly, just the two of them, and then tell his family after it was done. Evelyn would finish nursing school and they would raise their child together. But Margaret Hayes had other ideas. When they had finally told Alexander's parents about the pregnancy, the meeting had been a disaster. Margaret had looked at Evelyn with cold, calculating eyes and said words that still haunted her. "You're a gold digger, a poor little girl who saw her meal ticket and got herself pregnant on purpose. You don't love my son. You love his money, his name, his future." and I will not let you destroy him." Alexander had erupted in fury. Evelyn had never seen him so angry. "How dare you?" he had shouted at his mother. "Evelyn is the best thing that ever happened to me. I love her, and I love our child. If you can't accept that, if you're going to treat her with anything less than the respect she deserves, then you leave me no choice. I renounce my inheritance. I renounce the Hayes name if I have to, but I will not renounce my family. Evelyn and our baby, they're my family now." Margaret's face had gone white with rage. "You're making a mistake that will ruin your life." "The only mistake would be choosing money over love," Alexander had said, taking Evelyn's hand. "Come on, Evelyn, we're leaving." They had left the Hayes mansion, Alexander's jaw tight with anger, Evelyn's hands trembling. But once they were in his car, he had turned to her with such tenderness. "I meant every word," he had said, kissing her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "You and our baby are everything to me. My mother will come around eventually, and if she doesn't, it's her loss. I promise you, Evelyn, I will spend every day for the rest of my life making you happy. I will be the best husband and father I can be. Nothing will ever separate us." Those had been the last words he ever said to her. The accident had happened on his drive home. A drunk driver had run a red light, slamming into Alexander's car at an intersection. The call had come to Evelyn 2 hours later. Alexander had been rushed to St. Catherine's Hospital, one of the Hayes family hospitals. He was in critical condition. Evelyn had run through the rain, her heart in her throat, praying with every step. But when she arrived at the hospital, Margaret Hayes had been waiting. "He's dead," Margaret had said flatly, her face like stone. "My son is dead. And it's your fault. If he hadn't been so upset, if you hadn't wormed your way into his life with your pregnancy trap, he would have been paying attention. He would have seen that car. You killed him just as surely as if you'd been driving that car yourself." Evelyn had felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "No, no, please, I need to see him, please." But Margaret had blocked her way. "He's gone. There's nothing to see. And now you need to think about what you're going to do. You're carrying my son's child, but I will never accept you. I will never help you. I will never acknowledge that baby. Your best option is to terminate the pregnancy and disappear. I'll give you $10,000 to get rid of it and get out of my life." Evelyn had been too shocked, too devastated to even respond. She had stumbled out of the hospital into the rain, her world shattered. Alexander was dead. The love of her life, the father of her child, was gone, and his mother blamed her. In the days that followed, numb with grief, Evelyn had tried to get information about Alexander's death, about a funeral, about anything. But the Hayes family had closed ranks. Their lawyers had sent her a letter telling her to cease all contact with the family and reiterating that no support would be provided for her or her child. Evelyn had been alone, completely alone. Her dreams of finishing nursing school had crumbled. She couldn't afford tuition and a baby. She couldn't work full-time and go to school. So she had made the heartbreaking decision to withdraw, to return to her hometown, to the tiny rural community where she had grown up. Her parents had welcomed her with open arms, but they had so little to offer. Her father's factory job barely covered their own bills, so Evelyn had found work as a housekeeper, cleaning houses for the wealthier families in town, saving every penny for the baby coming. Luna had been born on a rainy April morning, and the moment Evelyn had held her daughter for the first time, she had known she'd made the right choice. Luna had Alexander's blue eyes, his dark curls. Looking at her daughter was like looking at a piece of the man she had loved, and Evelyn had poured all her grief, all her love, all her determination into raising this child. The years had been hard. Money was always tight. Evelyn worked multiple jobs, cleaning houses during the day, waitressing at night, taking on any work she could find. Her parents helped watch Luna, but they were aging, struggling with their own health issues. Evelyn had felt like she was drowning, trying to provide for her daughter while dealing with the weight of her lost future. Then, 2 months ago, her friend Jessica had called. Jessica, who had been her roommate in nursing school, had moved up in the world, working as a manager at the Grand Plaza Hotel in the city. They needed housekeeping staff, and the pay was good, really good, twice what Evelyn was making in her hometown. And Jessica had an apartment with a spare room. Luna could stay with Jessica during Evelyn's shifts. It was a chance. Maybe the only chance Evelyn would get to finally build a better life for her daughter. So Evelyn had made the painful decision to return to the city where she and Alexander had fallen in love, the city where her dreams had died, the city she had sworn never to return to. She had been back for exactly 6 weeks. 6 weeks of working hard at the hotel, of slowly saving money, of trying to heal from the past. And she had carefully avoided anything and anywhere that might remind her of Alexander. She never went near the university, never drove past the Hayes mansion, never looked at the hospitals where she knew his family had influence. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Now, watching Alexander examine their daughter, Evelyn felt like she was caught in a nightmare. He was alive. He had been alive this whole time, which meant Margaret Hayes had lied to her, had manipulated her, had driven her away while her son was still breathing. But the worst part, the part that made Evelyn want to scream, was that Alexander didn't remember her, didn't remember their love, didn't remember the promises he had made, didn't remember the night he had held her and told her nothing would ever separate them. "The IV fluids are helping already," Alexander said, pulling Evelyn from her spiral of thoughts. "Her fever is starting to come down. The antibiotics should take effect within the next 24 to 48 hours. I want to keep her here overnight for observation. Make sure the fever doesn't spike again." "Overnight?" Evelyn's voice came out small. "It's just a precaution. Children can deteriorate quickly with high fevers. I'd rather be safe." Alexander's expression was kind. "You're welcome to stay with her, of course. We'll get you a cot brought in." Luna stirred on the bed, her eyes opening a crack. "Mommy?" Evelyn was at her side immediately, taking her daughter's small hand. "I'm here, sweetheart. You're going to be okay. The doctor is taking good care of you." Luna's eyes drifted to Alexander, and for a moment she stared at him with that unnerving awareness that children sometimes have. "You look like my picture," she mumbled, her voice weak. Alexander's eyebrows rose. "What picture is that, sweetheart?" But Luna's eyes had already closed again, the fever and medication pulling her back into sleep. "What did she mean?" Alexander asked, turning to Evelyn. Evelyn's heart pounded. She kept a photo of Alexander on her bedside table, had shown it to Luna countless times, telling her daughter about her father. She has an active imagination. The fever makes her confused." Alexander nodded slowly, but there was something in his eyes. Curiosity, interest, that same inexplicable pull. "I'll check back in an hour," he said. "Try to get some rest yourself. You look exhausted." As he left the room, Evelyn sank into the chair beside Luna's bed, her whole body shaking. She needed to think. She needed to understand what had happened. Margaret Hayes had told her Alexander was dead, but he was alive, had been alive this whole time, walking around, working, living his life, without any memory of her. The accident, the head injury, he must have lost his memory, and Margaret, that manipulative woman, had used it, had told Evelyn her son was dead, had told Alexander, what? That Evelyn had never existed, that the baby had never existed? Rage burned in Evelyn's chest, hot and fierce. Margaret Hayes had stolen 5 years from her. 5 years Alexander could have known his daughter. 5 years Luna could have had her father. 5 years Evelyn had spent in poverty and grief, mourning a man who wasn't dead. But the rage was quickly followed by a wave of helplessness, because even if Alexander was alive, even if he was standing right in front of her, he didn't know her. He didn't remember loving her. He looked at her like she was a stranger. And what could Evelyn do about that? Walk up to him and say, "By the way, we were in love 5 years ago, that's your daughter, and your mother is a monster who lied to both of us." He would think she was insane. He would call security. He would, "I brought you some coffee." Evelyn jumped, turning to find Alexander back in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. He offered one to her with a gentle smile. "You look like you could use it. It's been a stressful night." "Thank you," Evelyn said, taking the cup with trembling hands. Alexander pulled up a chair across from her, sitting down with his own coffee. "I hope you don't mind, but I have a few minutes before my next patient. I wanted to check on how you're doing. Parents can be so focused on their sick child that they forget to take care of themselves." "I'm fine," Evelyn lied. "Luna is a beautiful name," Alexander said, taking a sip of his coffee. "Does it have special meaning?" Evelyn's throat tightened. "It means moon. Her father and we used to look at the moon together. When she was born, it just felt right." "That's lovely," Alexander said, and there was something wistful in his tone. "He must have been special, Luna's father." "He was," Evelyn whispered. "He was everything." They sat in silence for a moment, and Evelyn could feel Alexander watching her. When she looked up, his expression was troubled, confused. "I'm sorry if this is strange, but have we met before?" he asked slowly. "I keep feeling like I know you from somewhere, but I can't place it." Evelyn's heart stopped. I don't think so. It's just..." Alexander ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. You look so familiar. And when I look at you, I feel... He trailed off, shaking his head. Sorry, this is completely unprofessional. I had an accident 5 years ago, head injury, and I lost a significant portion of my memory. Sometimes I get these feelings, like I'm remembering something, but it never fully comes back. 5 years ago, the same time as the car accident, Evelyn's hands clenched around her coffee cup. What do you remember? She found herself asking. Not much from before the accident. My mother says I was engaged to a woman named Stephanie, from a good family, someone appropriate, but I don't remember her at all. I broke it off after I woke up because it felt wrong to marry someone I couldn't remember. He laughed, but it was hollow. My mother wasn't pleased. She's been trying to set me up with suitable women ever since. Stephanie. So that was Margaret's plan. Erase Evelyn and replace her with someone from their social circle. Evelyn felt sick. Sometimes, Alexander continued, his voice soft, I feel like there's this huge piece of my life missing, like I lost something important, something vital, but I can never figure out what it is. The doctors said the memories might never come back. That must be hard, Evelyn managed. It is. It's like living half a life. He looked at her again, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. But right now, sitting here with you, I feel something, like maybe I'm close to remembering. Does that sound crazy? No, Evelyn said, her voice barely a whisper. It doesn't sound crazy at all. Before Alexander could respond, his pager beeped. He checked it and sighed. I'm needed, but I'll be back to check on Luna in an hour. And if you need anything at all, just have the nurse page me. After he left, Evelyn buried her face in her hands. What was she supposed to do? Her mind raced with possibilities, each more complicated than the last. Should she tell him the truth? Should she find proof of their relationship first? Should she confront Margaret Hayes? But before she could make any decisions, she needed to focus on Luna. Her daughter's health came first. Everything else could wait. The night passed slowly. Nurses came and went, checking Luna's vitals, adjusting her IV. Alexander returned twice more, each visit professional, but with those strange, lingering glances at Evelyn that suggested something just beneath his conscious awareness was recognizing her. By morning, Luna's fever had broken. She woke up groggy but responsive, asking for water and her favorite stuffed bunny that Evelyn had thankfully thought to bring from Jessica's apartment. Alexander came in around 7 in the morning, looking tired but pleased. Her vitals are excellent. Fever is down to 99 degrees. I think we can discharge her this afternoon if she continues to improve. Thank you, Evelyn said. Thank you for taking such good care of her. It's my job, Alexander said with a smile. But with this particular patient, it's also been my pleasure. She's a wonderful little girl. He crouched down beside the bed where Luna was sitting up, looking much better. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Better, Luna said, then tilted her head, studying him with those perceptive blue eyes. You really do look like my picture. Luna, Evelyn started to interrupt, but Alexander held up a hand gently. What picture, Luna? Can you tell me about it? Luna looked at Evelyn, who gave a small nod, her heart pounding. What harm could it do now? Mommy has a picture by her bed, Luna explained. It's of my daddy. He died before I was born, but Mommy says he loved me very much. You look just like him. The room went very still. Alexander's face had gone pale, his eyes wide as he stared at Luna, then at Evelyn. Evelyn, he said slowly, standing up. Can I speak with you in the hallway, just for a moment? Evelyn's hands shook as she followed him out of the room. In the corridor, Alexander turned to her, his expression a mixture of confusion, dawning realization, and something that might have been hope. Luna is 4 years old, he said, his voice tight. I had my accident 5 years ago. You said her father died, but I'm not dead, Evelyn. I'm standing right here, and that little girl in there has my eyes. She has my hair. She looks like every baby picture my mother has shown me of myself. Evelyn couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face now, years of grief and anger and loneliness pouring out. Tell me the truth, Alexander said, and his voice cracked. Please. Is Luna my daughter? Yes, Evelyn whispered. Yes, she's yours. She's ours. Alexander staggered backward, gripping the wall for support. Oh my God, I have a daughter. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I didn't know. He looked at Evelyn, his eyes wet with unshed tears. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you? He stopped, realization dawning. You said her father died. You thought I was dead. Your mother told me you were dead, Evelyn said, the words tumbling out now. The night of your accident, I came to the hospital, and she told me you were dead. She said it was my fault that I'd gotten pregnant to trap you, that she'd never accept me or the baby. She offered me money to terminate the pregnancy and leave. I was devastated. I thought I'd lost you forever." Alexander's face had gone from pale to flushed with rage. "My mother told you I was dead. She's been lying to me for 5 years, telling me I was engaged to some woman named Stephanie, letting me believe I had no family, no one who cared about me before the accident. And all this time, you were out there with our daughter thinking I was gone." "I'm so sorry," Evelyn sobbed. "I should have questioned it. I should have demanded to see your body. I should have—" But Alexander cut her off, pulling her into his arms. The embrace was sudden, desperate, and even though he didn't remember her, even though this should have felt strange, it felt like coming home. Evelyn collapsed against him, 5 years of grief pouring out in racking sobs. "Don't apologize," Alexander said fiercely, his own voice thick with emotion. "This isn't your fault. It's hers. My mother did this. She manipulated both of us. She kept me from my daughter. She kept my daughter from me." He pulled back, looking at Evelyn's face, wiping her tears with his thumbs. "I don't remember you, Evelyn. I don't remember us. But standing here, holding you, it feels right. It feels like this is where I'm supposed to be." "I loved you so much," Evelyn whispered. "I still do. I never stopped." Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "Help me remember. Please. I want to remember. I want to know what we had. I want to know my daughter." For the next hour, as Luna slept, Evelyn told Alexander everything. About how they met, about their love story, about his family's disapproval, about the pregnancy, about his fierce declaration that he would choose her over his inheritance, about the accident, about Margaret's cruelty, about the 5 years Evelyn had spent raising Luna alone, struggling to survive, mourning the man she thought she'd lost forever. Alexander listened to it all, his face cycling through disbelief, anger, sorrow, and wonder. Several times he had to pause her, overcome with emotion. When she told him about Luna's birth, about how she had her father's eyes, he broke down completely. "I missed it all," he said, his voice ragged. "Her birth, her first word, her first steps, 4 years of her life, because my mother is a monster." "We can't get that time back," Evelyn said softly, "but we can move forward, if you want to." "I know you don't remember me, and I don't expect—" "I want to," Alexander interrupted. "God, Evelyn, I want to know Luna. I want to be her father, and I want to know you. I want to understand what we had. Maybe I can't remember it yet, but I can feel it. When I look at you, when I'm near you, something in me recognizes you. My heart knows you, even if my mind doesn't." Evelyn's breath caught. "What about your mother? The Hayes family? When you confront them—" "I'm done with them," Alexander said flatly. "If my mother could do this, could keep my own child from me, could let me live a lie for 5 years, then she's not the woman I want in my life, or in Luna's life. I meant what I said 5 years ago, even if I don't remember saying it. I choose you. I choose my daughter. I choose love over money and status and all the rest of it." That afternoon, when Luna was discharged, Alexander came with them. Not as Dr. Hayes, but as Alexander, the man trying to piece his life back together. He helped Luna into Evelyn's old car, buckling her carefully into her car seat, his hands gentle and unsure. Luna, with the easy acceptance of a child, had taken the news that this doctor was actually her daddy with surprising calm. She had looked at him seriously and said, "Does this mean you're not dead anymore?" "No, sweetheart," Alexander had said, his voice choked. "I'm not dead. I was just lost for a while, but I'm found now." "Okay," Luna had said simply. "Can you come see my room? I have lots of toys." The confrontation with Margaret Hayes came 3 days later. Alexander had spent those days getting to know his daughter, slowly beginning to build a relationship with Evelyn. He had taken leave from the hospital, telling his supervisors he had a family emergency. He had also hired a lawyer and begun gathering evidence of his mother's manipulation. When they walked into the Hayes mansion, Margaret's face went white. "Evelyn," she hissed, "what are you doing here? I told you to stay away from—" "You told her I was dead," Alexander said, his voice like ice. "You looked at the woman I loved, the mother of my child, and you told her I was dead. You let me believe for 5 years that I had no one, that there was nothing before my accident worth remembering. You tried to erase my entire life, my love, my daughter, because they didn't fit into your perfect picture of what a Hayes should be." Margaret's composure cracked. "I did what was best for you. That woman was using you for your money. I protected you. You destroyed me," Alexander said. "You destroyed us. You robbed my daughter of her father. You robbed me of 4 years of her life, and for what? Your pride, your social standing? You don't understand, Margaret said desperately. If you had married her, had that baby, your life would have been over. Your career... My career is fine. I'm a pediatrician. I help children. I have colleagues who respect me, patients who trust me. None of that required me to come from the right family or marry the right woman. What I needed was love. What I needed was family. And you took that from me. Margaret looked at Evelyn with pure hatred. This is your fault. You've poisoned him against me. No, Alexander said firmly. You did that yourself. I'm done, Mother. I want nothing from this family. I'm changing my name back to my original documents from before the accident. I'm removing you as my medical proxy. I'm cutting all financial ties. You're not going to be part of my life or my daughter's life. You had a choice 5 years ago to accept love and family, and you chose pride and control. Now you get to live with that choice. They left the mansion with Margaret's protests echoing behind them. It should have felt sad, severing ties with his family. But as they walked to the car where Jessica was waiting with Luna, Alexander felt lighter than he had in years. Over the following weeks, Alexander threw himself into building a life with Evelyn and Luna. He moved out of his downtown apartment and into a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. Evelyn and Luna moved in with him, and every day felt like a discovery. Some memories started to come back. Small things at first. The taste of a particular coffee reminded him of late-night study sessions with Evelyn. A song on the radio sparked a flash of dancing with her in his old apartment. The scent of her shampoo triggered a memory of holding her, promising forever. But even when the memories didn't come, the love did. Alexander fell in love with Evelyn all over again, with her strength, her resilience, her fierce devotion to their daughter. He fell in love with the way she sang to Luna at bedtime, the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, the way she looked at him like he was her whole world, and he fell completely, irrevocably in love with Luna. Every smile, every giggle, every "daddy, watch this," filled a hole in his heart he hadn't known existed. He learned her favorite foods, her favorite stories, her fears and hopes and dreams. He went to parent-teacher conferences and playground visits and bedtime routines, soaking up every moment he'd missed. 6 months after that night in the emergency room, Alexander and Evelyn were married in a small ceremony in the park where they used to watch the stars. Luna was their flower girl, dancing down the aisle, scattering petals with gleeful abandon. Jessica was Evelyn's maid of honor. A few of Alexander's colleagues from the hospital attended, genuinely happy for their friend. Margaret Hayes was not invited. Robert Hayes had reached out once, apologizing for his wife's actions, but the relationship was strained. Alexander had made it clear that Margaret was not welcome in their lives unless she was willing to genuinely apologize and respect his family. So far, she hadn't been willing to do that. But it didn't matter, because standing at the altar, watching Evelyn walk toward him in a simple white dress, Luna clutching her hand, Alexander felt complete. He might not remember every moment of their past, but he was present for their future. When the officiant asked if he took Evelyn to be his wife, Alexander said clearly, "I do. I did 5 years ago in my heart, and I do now with everything I am." And when he kissed his bride, when Luna cheered and jumped between them to join their family hug, when the small gathering of friends clapped and celebrated, Alexander felt a memory surface, clear and bright and perfect. He remembered Evelyn in his arms under the stars, pregnant with Luna, both of them dreaming of their future. He remembered promising her, "Nothing will ever separate us." He had been wrong then. They had been separated, but they had found each other again, and this time nothing would tear them apart. Evelyn returned to school, determined to finish her nursing degree. Alexander supported her completely, taking over Luna duties when Evelyn had classes, studying alongside her, believing in her dreams as fiercely as she had once believed in his. 2 years later, Evelyn graduated top of her class. Alexander and Luna sat in the front row, cheering louder than anyone else. Luna held a sign that said, "My mommy is the best nurse ever," in wobbly 6-year-old handwriting. That night, as they celebrated at home, Alexander raised a glass of sparkling cider to his wife. "To Evelyn," he said, his eyes shining with pride, "who survived loss and poverty and 5 years of struggle, who raised our beautiful daughter alone, who never gave up on her dreams, who taught me that love is stronger than memory, stronger than manipulation, stronger than anything that tries to tear it apart. I love you. I will always love you, and I will spend the rest of my life being worthy of you." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears as she kissed him, Luna giggling between them as always. inserting herself into every family moment. 5 years after that terrible, wonderful night in the emergency room, Evelyn and Alexander stood together, watching Luna play in the backyard of their home. She was 9 now, strong and healthy and full of life. She looked just like her father, with her mother's determination and kindness. "Do you ever think about that night?" Evelyn asked, leaning against Alexander's shoulder. "If Luna hadn't gotten sick, if we hadn't ended up in that hospital." "All the time," Alexander admitted. "We could have lived our whole lives never knowing. I could have gone on not remembering, and you could have gone on thinking I was dead." "It seems impossible that everything worked out," Evelyn said. "Not impossible," Alexander corrected, wrapping his arm around her. "Just meant to be. We were always supposed to find each other again. Love like ours doesn't just disappear, Evelyn. Even when I couldn't remember you, my heart knew you. It was always waiting to come home." Evelyn turned in his arms, looking up at the man she had loved for over a decade, through separation and loss and reunion. "I love you, Alexander Hayes." "I love you, Evelyn Hayes," he replied, and kissed her as Luna called out, "Gross! No kissing!" but was laughing as she said it. They had lost time. They had faced cruelty and manipulation and heartbreak, but they had also found their way back to each other, and in the end, love had won. It had always been going to win. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. Your opinion is very important to us. Did Evelyn and Alexander's journey resonate with you? What would you have done in their situation? Your feedback means everything and helps us create more stories you'll love. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories that celebrate the power of love, family, and redemption. What story should we tell next? Let us know in the comments.